Hello and welcome to another Hasselblad webinar. I'm Mark Whitney, part of Hasselblad's European marketing team, and I'm keeping safe and following government guidelines today by coming to you from my home in the UK. Although, again, by the magic of virtual backgrounds, I'm also at Hasselblad's headquarters in Gothenburg. I hope you're all keeping safe too, and in these tough times, and I'm looking forward to spending the next hour with you. Today's webinar will be an interview with Italian landscape photographer Isabella Tabacchi, a user of the Hasselblad X1D camera system, and we'll be going through some of her favourite images with a sneak look behind the scenes and hearing some of the stories behind them. So just before we meet Isabella, as always, just to mention that our webinar is being recorded, and we'll post the recording up on the Hasselblad YouTube channel within a few hours of the webinar finishing, or latest tomorrow morning. So if you'd like to watch it again or see any particular bit, you'll be able to see it there. And then a quick agenda, very simple today, just an introduction to Isabella and a look through some of her work. We estimate this to be around about 50 minutes, which will leave us some time at the end for some question and answers. You can also ask questions throughout the webinar using the GoToWebinar control panel there on the side. We have my colleague reviewing questions, and we'll try to ask as many relevant interesting questions as possible. So let's say hello to Isabella. Are you there, Isabella?
Hello. Hi.
Hey. How are you?
Everyone. I'm fine. I'm fine. You?
Yeah, good. Thank you. Yeah. So thank you very much for joining us today. As people may well know, you're a user of the Hasselblad X1D camera, and your images are amazing. So it'll be great to find out a little bit more about those today. So let's have a look at you as a photographer. So you're based in northern Italy.
Yeah. I'm based in north of Italy, in Bologna. Actually, at the moment I am in Bologna, but I travel the world and when it's possible, and I go in the Alps. I studied a lot the Alps and the landscapes of the Alps, but I love also to travel the world to discover new landscapes.
Okay, yeah, and obviously the landscape local to where you live, is that what inspired you to become sort of a lover of landscapes and to become a landscape photographer?
Yeah, exactly. Not exactly the landscapes around me in my region, but I love a lot the landscapes in the mountains, especially the boundless sceneries in the mountains in the Alps, especially. Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, we mentioned as part of this webinar description that you use luminosity masks for a certain style of image that you're known for. So we'll be covering that a little bit later on.
Yeah.
Also, we've got some of the awards there that you've earned in your career so far, which is very impressive. Is there any particular award that you're most proud of?
Yes. It's yes, absolutely. Yeah, my post processing is yes. Later we will talk about my post processing also, and about the TK panel, about the luminosity masks, and yeah, it's for me it's a way to accentuate some areas in the landscapes that are very important for the composition, and also to give a magic mood into my landscapes. Exactly.
Okay, great. And the awards, is there one particular award that you're proudest of? Your favourite award?
A particular award.
Do you have a? Yeah.
Oh yes, it's yes for me. Yes, for me, yes, I'm very proud of yes, I'm very proud of this. For me, it's important to express my sensibility through the landscapes. Absolutely, it's very important. Yeah.
Okay. So we've got your website address and some of your social media pages there. So that's where people can find out more information on you if they want to after the webinar. So let's have a look. Obviously, Hasselblad webinar, so it's only right that we mention the kit you use. So you have used both the Mark 1 and the Mark 2 X1D.
Yes.
Yeah, tell us a bit about your use of the camera. What do you like about the cameras?
I loved a lot about the cameras, the dynamic range. I think I moved to medium format from the full frame because I wanted to have a lot of information, a lot of details into my landscapes, especially during the editing phase, but also on the shooting phase, because it's very important, not only the megapixel of the camera, not only the megapixel, but also the sensor, the big sensor that contains a lot of information, especially the dynamic range, the colors. I loved a lot the colors of X1D Mark 1, also X1D Mark 2. And another thing I loved a lot was the detail in the night, because I love to take shots also in the night. And the noise was very few. Also, yes, during the very long exposures, there were very few hot pixels, and I could shoot a lot, very good in the night, especially in some very dark landscapes, as in Namibia, for example, or also in the Dolomiti. Yes, in the Dolomites.
Okay. Because we've got two images here that we're showing. So these were actually taken with your 35mm camera before you started using Hasselblad. And these images, they look amazing. So yeah, tell us a bit why, you just mentioned about dynamic range and that. So with regards to your images, what difference does the Hasselblad give you with these?
For sure, the details, the quality of the details, especially when I edit my images, when I zoom into my images, it's totally different. The detail, the dynamic range, the way I recover the highlights and the shadows is quite different. Also a little bit, I think it's very little the different, but it's very the difference between the color cast is much better in the Hasselblad. And of course, there are a lot of things I don't correct anymore. For example, during my editing phase, of course, I not only use luminosity mask, but I do also many adjustments to correct some areas in the images, some things like color cast, so like the noise, or I recover all the information I can get from a landscape. And with Hasselblad, I do it less. Of course, I do multiple exposures. I try to have all the informations and put them together, of course, because for me it's important to create pictures that have all the information inside of the picture. Of course, with Hasselblad, the effort is less, for sure.
And you print. Sorry, you print your images quite a lot as well, don't you? So do you notice quite a big difference with that?
Yes, exactly. When I print, of course, I can make very big prints without losing details, and the quality is really much better. Especially, I like very much to print also in fine art, and I love fine art prints. And for me, it's very important that the quality and also color, the contrast are good as I want. Yeah.
Okay, so let's have a look at some of your Hasselblad images. So this was with the Mark 1 X1D and the 45mm lens. So is there a little bit of background behind this image?
Yeah, this is Namibia. This image is taken in Okaukeio. I don't know how it's pronounced, but it's taken in Okaukeio. It's a lodge in the Etosha National Park in Namibia. It was not planned I went there, because that day the car was broken. So I had to stop in that location because I had to go to the Alali lodge, but I had to stop there. And in the sunrise, I had the rainbow. So I was unlucky, I was unlucky, but lucky. So in the sunrise, there was this crazy weather that is not common in Namibia. Rainbow, there was a little bit of rain before, and there were a lot of beautiful contrasts. And that animal is a hyena. Yeah. And yeah, this was for me the emotion that I tried in front of this landscape was incredible. Africa is very special. I always loved mountain landscapes or volcanic landscapes, but for me Africa was so special, full of colors. I felt like in the childhood, really.
Okay, and we got some questions coming in already. So a question from Ivan. Are you using graduated ND filters for your landscapes?
Sometimes, yes, I use the soft graduated filters, 0.9. Yeah, for me, sometimes, not always, but sometimes I use also graduated filter, always soft graduated, because I like a very soft effect, not hard. Yeah.
Okay, so this next image here is with the 30mm lens. So what lenses do you have in your kit?
In my kit, I have XCD21, XCD30, XCD45P, and XCD135, and also I have a teleconverter 1.7X.
Yes, yeah, for the 135. Okay,
yes.
And then on this image in particular, you've been kind enough to share with us a behind the scenes image. So that's what you were seeing and what the camera was seeing.
Yeah, exactly. Of course, the phone takes the iPhone takes the picture. Also, the colors, the lights in the iPhone are not so much accurate, so maybe the image looks a little bit different. And also, I think was taken a little bit before, because the contrast, also the lights in my image are different.
Yeah.
I don't have always time to take shots and take behind the scenes, so maybe I take the behind the scenes before, and then I shot a lot all the time.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So again with the 45mm lens here.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, this is taken in Kamchatka. This was the place where we camped, me and my two guides, because I went around around Kamchatka with two guides, with two local guides from two local guides from Russia, and there we camped in front of this forest. That was a forest that was destroyed by the eruption of a Tabacchi volcano that is visible there in the horizon in 1975, in the eruption of 1975. These trees are all dead, and this is called the dead forest. And of course, yes, this behind the scenes was taken a little bit after the image that you've seen before, because the image you've seen before, I took it during sunrise. I woke up, it was like 5 a.m. I woke up and then I took shots near the tents, because there are a lot of bears going around, so I had to be careful, to take care. And then, yes, I took the behind the scenes in front of these crazy surreal landscapes. Absolutely. Post-apocalyptic landscape.
For your style, Fernando is asking, are there any authors, photographers or painters that have influenced your style, or is it a style that you've developed yourself?
Yes, for me, the painters from 19th century, for me, they inspired me a lot. But I go also with my sensibility, with what I feel. I don't know exactly what inspires me. I don't know exactly. For me, I go with my sensibility, with my emotions in that moment, in the moment of shooting, and then in the moment of editing. And then I mix all together.
Yeah. Okay, so on this particular image here, yeah, tell us a little bit about this image.
Yeah, this is an image taken in the Dolomiti in Prato Piazza. It's an Alp in the Dolomiti in Valposteria, and that was during an afternoon, and it snowed a lot in the previous days. So it was full of snow, and there was a storm that was going away. So that was that cloud that was very, very white, and there were all that contrast there, all the clouds creating those shadows. And then in that moment, I took two pictures, because two very similar pictures. One I took it before, and the mountain behind in the background was not visible. Then the clouds started to make the sky a little bit empty in that area, and the mountain was visible, so it was very special. So I decided to take a shot to that lonely hut, to represent also the beautiful loneliness that I feel in the mountains, in the Dolomiti. And it's a loneliness. You feel lonely in the Alps, you feel lonely in the mountains, in the landscapes, but it's a beautiful loneliness because you feel like free. So
yeah, and you've titled the
sensation. Yeah, I wanted to express. Yes, exactly.
Yeah, so you've titled the image "Lonely in the Alps."
Yeah, exactly.
And then you've been very kind to allow us to show this. This is the RAW file for the actual finished image.
Exactly.
So this is straight out of camera.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, in fact, yes, the RAW file is 4:3 ratio, and but I decided to cut the image into a square format because I like it much more for the composition. I like much more the lonely hut there in the center with the mountain in the background, and then all square is much better. I like much better, and all that diagonal that was going down was much better. Of course, here as post-processing, of course, I try with luminosity masks to accentuate a little bit the lines into the foreground, into the snow, the illuminated snow. I had a little bit to clone out some of that disturbing snow that came down on the left, and I accentuated a little bit more the shadows behind the hut, and also the lights on the clouds. Yeah.
Okay, so when you see a scene, so when you see a scene like this, do you automatically vision it in your style as to what you would then be able to do with the image? Is that how you see it?
Yeah, for me, when I see a scene that I like, that makes me inspired, I immediately take a shot. And I immediately take a shot, and then yes, I think also about editing a little bit. I have already an idea. This came with the experience in all these years. Before when I started, when I was a beginner, I didn't have an idea. Then with experiences, I started also to take shots and think about also the editing, because I think it's important. I think in the creation of an image, of an inspirational work, I think it's very important to think about the ideas you have. Of course, this scene was a surprise for me because I saw it was not provided. I could not provide. I didn't want to. I didn't go to that place and expected this, of course. But when I look at this scene, I immediately say, "Oh, fantastic! This is a square image, and I want this editing more or less." Yes.
Yeah. Okay, and then related to your editing, Patrick is asking, what software do you use for your luminosity masking? Is it just Photoshop or Lightroom, or do you use specialist software?
I use Photoshop, just Photoshop, Camera Raw, and I don't use Lightroom because I always started with Camera Raw and I prefer it, and because I always started with this. And then when I started with luminosity mask, I always used Photoshop. I always use Photoshop because luminosity masks. I use TK mask, TK7 luminosity mask, TK7 panel. I think is better. Also, it works only with Photoshop, so it's much better. And I'm more free. I'm more free to make more very precise filters, to make layers, and do very precise steps always, and very little steps, and get a very natural effect, a very natural effect at the end. Yes, actually, yes.
Okay, and then another thing that you like to do is to combine it with sort of astro photography, your landscapes. So tell me a bit how you achieve this effect.
This image was taken in Namibia, and of course this is a double exposure, because especially in that landscapes, it's very dark. The environment is very dark. So I need to do an image for the sky, an exposure for the sky at more or less 15-20 seconds, and then also exposure, and then another exposure for the foreground of several minutes. And then I merge them together in Photoshop with the luminosity masks, and with the help of luminosity masks, and I do a double exposure to have all the informations, all the shadows that are readable, because otherwise that foreground was completely dark, was a silhouette. Already it's very beautiful, the silhouette of the trees, but for me the desert, the foreground has to be readable, has to be full of informations. So yes, and then I like very much the dynamic range also during the night shots, the night shooting phase, because it's very makes me recover a lot of details also in the Milky Way, and I like it very much. And the noise is not too high. I like a lot also with ISO. The noise is not too high. Yeah.
Okay, I've got a question here from Sander. Do you ever use a laptop or an iPad whilst you're on location to check what you've captured, or is it always when you get back to base?
Okay, with focus, I like to use the iPad to check sometimes to check the images through the focus software from Hasselblad, because I like to check the images I done also in a bigger screen like an iPad. But then yeah, when I travel a lot, when I'm away, when I'm traveling for a long time, I always take a laptop with me, and maybe I start to do some editing, to check the shots I done. But the most of the work I do it here at my home, because I have a much better screen with a lot of with 99% RGB, and it's very important, it's very accurate, so I can be sure of the color accuracy and the lights and everything, the quality much better. Yeah, but I like also to check the shots during.
Okay, so another image here with the XCD45.
Yeah, exactly. This image was taken in the same afternoon of Lonely in the Alps, but a little bit later. And yes, it was a very, very lucky shooting phase because I had the low clouds going down under the mountain that mountain is called Croda Rossa, and I had that very strong light coming from the clouds, out of the clouds, and illuminating everything, and the contrasts were very high. I like when in the images there are very high contrast, and because make a lot of are very much impactful for the eye, for the sight. So for me, it's very, very important. That, and I like this. I call this image sun playing with the clouds. Yeah. Definitely playing with the clouds, the sun here.
Okay, then this next one is with your 21mm lens.
Yeah, exactly. I love this lens very much because I like a lot to take shots with the wide angle because I have a wider view, especially on the foreground. And here I was in Kamchatka Peninsula, near the crater of Mudnovsky volcano. Yeah, that's the kind of image taken, kind of behind the scenes taken from my guide Irina in Kamchatka, and there very little there far in the distance there is me taking pictures, and my guide Sasha, that was my mountain guide that always helped me to check very safe places where to place my tripod or where to take shots, because it's not so easy there. There are some places that are not so safe, and yeah, I took a lot of care about my camera there, especially next to the fumaroles, next to the sulfur fumaroles, because the gas is not so healthy for the sensor. So I had to be very quick and take shots, but I loved a lot that the atmosphere created by the fumaroles, all the smoke coming out from this so special fumaroles, this so special mouth to the floor, and I loved a lot the peak of the crater in Mudnovsky volcano. That is one of the most active volcanoes in Eurasia. Yes, in Kamchatka.
Okay. You mentioned the guides that you have with you. So we've had a question from Teresa. So do you always travel with guides, or do you ever travel alone, and how would you deal with that?
Yeah, I travel sometimes alone, sometimes with friends, sometimes with photo friends. But for example, the travel in Kamchatka, I wanted to do it alone because it was a project. It was something that the other people didn't want to join, or I wanted to do this project by myself, and it was something that I wanted to do by myself. And of course, I had to pay some guides, some local guides that stayed with me every moment, because the landscape there, the nature there is quite dangerous, and it's not possible to drive without a very big car with very high tires, and it's very difficult there to drive, and it's full of bears everywhere, and the landscapes are quite dangerous in some points, because we went also in some up on some cinder cones, also in the area of Mudnovsky volcano, and there I had to take care a lot where I put my feet or where I was walking, and so the guides are needed. And also I don't know Russian at all, so I needed to go with the guides. But yes, it depends. Sometimes I travel alone with the guides. Depends on the place where I travel. If safe, if it's needed to travel with guides or with other people or alone. It depends.
Okay, and again on this image, you've been very kind to supply us with the raw file out of the camera.
Yes.
So this was the before and the after. So is it the same sort of adjustments that you spoke about before?
Yeah, exactly. And yes, here I underexposed a little bit. I like very much here the dynamic range of Hasselblad, because you can distinguish a lot the clouds, the shape of the clouds. They're up over the peak of the crater of Luminosity volcano. And yeah, here I accentuated a lot the smoke, the tridimensionality of the smoke, and the tridimensionality of the fumarole, the mouse, the sulfuric mouse, also with a kind of tonality masks inside the TK7 panel. And also I accentuated a lot the light over a little bit to create contrast and to focus also the view on the center, in the center of the landscape. That is the most important part of the landscape, talking about composition. In fact, the composition goes from there down on the right, then goes up to the peak, and then goes on the right up. Yes, so you can follow a kind of story, a kind of language of the landscape, following the composition lines. Yeah, for me it's very important.
Yeah, that's amazing. So this image here, so this is a focus stacked image, is that right?
Yeah, exactly. It's a focus stacked image because with the Hasselblad, with the medium format, I always feel the need to use focus stacking, because focus stacking is because the sensor is very, very big. It's very three-dimensional. The images are very three-dimensional, so I need a lot to use focus stacking. And in this case, in this particular situation, we have the background. That yes, exactly. We have the background where there is the weaverbird nest, the tree with the weaverbird nest, and then we have a kind of frame of trees of acacia. I don't remember, and I had absolutely the tree, the frame of the branches of the tree is in front of the background, so the depth of field is very big, so you had to use absolutely stacking. So I took a shot. I don't remember how many shots I took, but I took a shot for the branch that is down there on the left. I took a shot for that part, then I took a shot for the part of this branch on the right, and then I took a shot for the background, and then I took a shot for the upper part where there is another branch.
So this was before.
Yes.
Sorry. Okay,
yeah,
sorry.
yes.
This was before the X1D had the focus sort of bracketing built into it. So you did this manually?
Yes, I did this manually, and yes, I did also a double exposure here, because the light, even if the sun was setting and there was not so much, I had a little bit to do a double exposure, and then yes, with the masks, not luminosity masks, but with normal masks, I had to align the layers automatically, but then I merged the focus stacking manually with the masks in Photoshop.
Okay, yeah. So Andrea has asked what software you use for Photoshop. So it's always Photoshop, and you don't ever use any specialist.
Always.
Yeah.
Yes,
okay.
I always use Photoshop, because at the moment I didn't found a good software that makes me create, that makes me preserve, that makes me keep the informations of the raw files. So I like to use Photoshop. I do it manually, and it's anyway it's not difficult, because here there is nothing that moved. The problem in focus taking I have it when, for example, I have some flowers that are moving because of the wind, are moving from a shot to the other, and then I have to adjust some things. So, but that was not the situation. Yeah.
Yeah, so a bit like this image here.
Yeah, this is exactly. This is Kamchatka. This is taken in Kamchatka in front of Vilniusinski volcano. Vilniusinski volcano is a sleepy volcano, and here the foreground is made of yellow rhododendron. And here I also made a focus stacking, a very simple one, because also here the flowers were very big, they were not moving so much, so I didn't have problems with focus taking. And yeah, and this was a very crazy, another very crazy landscape I had the occasion to take shots, yes, to shot in Kamchatka, because also this is the daytime, this is taken in the daytime when I was going to Mudnovsky volcano, and I loved this landscape a lot. It's so special, this environment.
So we've got a question from Gerhard. He's asking that in the mountains it will frequently get very cold. So do you take any extra precautions to make sure the camera still operates okay at those temperatures?
Yeah. Well, I had some when I was in the Dolomites, in the Alps. In Kamchatka, not so much, not because that was not so cold in Kamchatka. We were in summer, but in the mountains, one time I took shots when there was a lot of very cold wind, and there was minus 30, and it was very cold. So the camera was freezing, and there were also little ice. It was almost frozen, but I didn't have problems. Of course, when I went inside in the hut, because I was near an alpine hut in that situation, and of course I took a lot of care, because I didn't want that the condensation caused problems. But I didn't have problems. It worked like before, so I didn't have problems. So I don't do anything for. Also before with the other camera, I didn't have any problems. So I don't do anything special for the cold in the mountains. Yeah.
Okay, and on this particular image, you seem quite high up. So are you sort of, have you got quite a high vantage point there?
Yes, I took this shot from an helicopter.
Oh, okay.
And this is Karimsky volcano in Kamchatka. Is in the east part, in the east belt of volcanoes in Kamchatka, and this is one of the most active volcanoes in I think in the world, because it's erupting ash very frequently. And of course, when I had a flight with the Mi-8, that is a Soviet helicopter, and from that helicopter I took many shots. I took a shot to Malise Miacic crater. I took a shot to the Geyser Valley, and here we went very close to this Karimsky volcano that was erupting ash and cinder, and there was a huge cloud of ash, and was quite special, a little bit very impressive, a little bit maybe scary, but very, 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 very special, and I took a lot of images. And here we were behind this volcano, and yes, there is a waterfall there on the left, down on the left, and that nature is totally without humans, totally without houses. It's totally pristine, so it's so special to see this pristine landscape from the helicopter texture. That's crazy.
You're obviously very sort of enthusiastic about sort of nature and landscapes. So how much does that help in, you know, shooting something that you love so much?
Well, yes, I like a lot when the nature is pristine. When I like also to accentuate also the difference between the majesty of the nature and the humankind that is so little, so that the humankind thinks to be high, to be huge, to be powerful, but the nature is much more powerful than us. So it's very nice. Sometimes I like also to show very little houses in, like for example, Lonely in the Alps, the image Lonely in the Alps. I like very much to take shots to these little houses in these huge environments, in this completely majestic environment in nature. And but many times I love to speak, to express my sensibility through pristine nature, to this nature that is untouched by the humankind. And in Kamchatka there are hundreds of kilometers that are untouched by the humankind. It is amazing. Yes, this is another image. This image is taken near the Mutnoski volcano. This is a canyon called Opasny Canyon. It means dangerous. And this is a waterfall, an acid waterfall. In this water, there is no life. There is nothing. It's totally acid. It's incompatible with life. And this waterfall goes in the river Volcanaya, and this water comes from the Mutnoski volcano. And the river Volcanaya goes into the valley. And here there were crazy colors, like, for example, those rocks were made of sulfur and stone together, and many minerals. And it was amazing when I saw those rocks, these cliffs that went straight down to the canyon. This was amazing for me, a crazy view, a crazy sight, and it looks really unreal. It looks out of the world.
Mm. Yeah,
And
I
this,
think
yes, this is a behind. Yeah.
Sorry, yeah, just gonna say the behind the scenes image. You know, it's hard to believe the finished file until you see the behind the scenes. I think on this particular one.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. In the behind the scene, you see that is really a very yellow. It's crazy. It's because of the sulfur. I think the volcanic landscapes are unreal. Create these unreal colors, unreal tonalities, these unreal environments that are maybe yes, we think are not possible, no, in nature, but that's why I love this kind of volcanic landscapes, because are like it looks to be in the hell. I don't know, in the abysses of the earth.
Yeah, we've got a couple of questions that we'll go to. So Dusan is asking, where do you get your inspiration for your sort of next projects? How do you sort of decide where you would like to go next?
I would like to go everywhere. I would like to go in many places. I have a long list. I would love to, if everything goes well with this Corona situation, I would like to. I will go in Nepal in Everest Base Camp trek, and there I'm looking forward to go there because there are all these majestic peaks that are the highest peaks in the world. So there I will be in contact with the majesty of the nature, and I'm looking forward to.
Okay, apologies everyone.
Okay.
We seem to. Oh, yeah. Are you back, Isabella?
Yes. Okay. Okay,
Oh,
you're right. I don't know. There was maybe a connection problem. Yes, I was saying that I'm really looking forward to be in Nepal among these very huge peaks, these huge mountains, and I think this is an inspiring place. I would like also to visit the rest of Russia, because also in Russia there are a lot of very, very beautiful landscapes that are hidden, and I would love to return in Kamchatka, because I think I've seen not so much from Kamchatka, and I think 2 weeks are not enough. So I would love to see other locations, other volcanoes, other volcanic landscapes. I would like to visit Faroe Islands. There are a lot of places to visit. I would like to visit United States, South America. I would love to return in Africa, maybe to visit. I would love to visit also Dalol in Africa, in Ethiopia. But I don't know if now it's safe to go there. So I'll see. Maybe in the next years. And I would love to visit Antarctica, to visit the far south. There are many landscapes I would love to visit, and I often use as inspiration Google Earth, especially in this crisis of Corona, where when I can't travel, I like a lot to travel with Google Earth and explore landscapes with Google Earth, locations, and see what locations I could visit next after this period that I hope it will finish soon.
Yeah. Hopefully, you'll be able to travel soon. Yeah.
Okay.
So another couple of questions, if you don't mind. So Elsie is asking, are your photographs commissions, or are they all personal projects?
Yes, my pictures. Yes, at the moment, all my images are personal projects. But if someone asks me for a commissioned projects, for me it's no problem. Of course, as long as it's get along with my inspiration, because for me is what I like about this this work, for example, this landscape photography work. What I like about what I do in my days, in my life, is that I always get surprised. I don't have to do the pictures, to take pictures if the other tell me take picture. I can take pictures by my own inspiration, with my own inspiration, with my own brain. So I prefer, yes, if someone asks me if I can do projects I can do also commissioned projects, but I prefer always to do by myself, by personal projects, to make personal projects, and then if someone likes, can buy pictures, get a license. For an exclusive license, I prefer to do commissioned works, but it has to be together with my inspiration. I have to decide. I want to decide to be the mind behind everything.
Yeah.
To
And
control
are your prints limited edition? Do you limit them to a certain number?
Yeah, exactly. My prints are medium or large limited edition, and usually I make 10 copies of limited edition, but it depends. For the large, I do only 3 copies. For the medium, I do 10 copies. But when the images are very much my most important works, for example, the works I took in Kamchatka, for me, yes, I always do like 6 copies. So not so much, 6 copies. Because if a work is very important for me, I prefer to make it more limited. Yeah.
Okay, and this image that we're showing at the moment, that's Matterhorn, is that right?
Yes, it's Matterhorn, and this image is taken in a lake near Zermatt, and during sunrise at the end of October in 2019. And here, yes, I went around this lake, and I went a little bit up. I found those roots, and I loved that foreground. So I decided absolutely to take that image with the roots leading to the Matterhorn. And because I call this image the roots of eternity, because for me, Matterhorn is a very famous mountain. It's a very beautiful mountain. That's for me is a symbol of eternity. And these roots look to be like to be the roots of the Matterhorn. So that's why I call the image the roots of eternity.
Okay, then this is our last image, and one that we used for the title graphic to advertise the webinar. So nice to go full circle and end up on this. We will have a few little minutes afterwards for some questions, so please do try and get questions in before our time is up. Yeah, so Winter Oasis, you call this image?
Yes, this is an image taken also in Switzerland as well, like Roots of Eternity, but it's taken in December, a little bit before Christmas in 2019. And this is this is Betmeralp, is a very little town near the Aletsch Glacier. And it's very fascinating, especially in during winter, because it's totally covered by the snow. And this is, for example, this is an example of a human landscape mixed with nature. Earlier in the webinar, I told you that I like to express my sensibility through pristine nature, especially, but I like also to express my sensibility through the mankind mixed with nature. So this is an example of a landscape, a human landscape, a urban human landscape mixed with the nature, with the snow, with the Alps. And so it's very important for me to express also this side of landscape photography, of nature, so the mankind that is mixed with it.
Yeah. And for the images that aren't focus stacked, William is asking, where do you choose to focus for a single shot landscape?
I chose the focus for a single shot landscape. If I don't make a focus taking, I always use the central. I always put the focus at the center, because the focus has to reach all the image all the edges of the image, so it's better to put the focus point at the center of the image, in the center.
Okay, and do you ever use autofocus, or is it usually manual focus if you're stacking, or?
I use very much autofocus, but depends, because when the light is not enough, or for example during night, I use always manual focus, or during blue hour, or when it's difficult, in some situation when it's difficult to focus on some little details, I use manual focus. But usually I use autofocus. During night, I have to use always manual focus, and I help myself with the live view that shows the little points that are the stars. And this shows it quite well, so I can zoom in and focus on the star and do manual focus.
Okay, that question was from Alex. Sorry, I didn't say the name. A question from Simon. If you travel to a location, do you shoot even if the conditions are not optimal? So I guess have you traveled to a location and not got the shot you wanted because of the conditions?
Okay, when I go in a landscape, I never have expectations on the weather. Because I prefer to take what the landscape, what the nature gives me. For example, in the crater near the crater of Mutnoski volcano, I didn't have a condition with that very with a very colorful sunset or very colorful light, but I tried to get the best of the weather condition I had. So for me, especially when I travel in a location that I will not visit for a long time again, I prefer to get what do not have so many expectations on the weather conditions, and take the best of the landscape. So for me also, sometimes, for example, also in the image, the roots of the Matterhorn, I didn't have a crazy sky, but if I didn't have a crazy sky, I focused on the composition, and I created, I focused on the composition, so the eye of the observer, of the person that observes, that looks at my pictures, is focused on the compositions, and then not so much on the sky. So I have to take the best of the landscape that I'm visiting. So I don't care so much about the weather conditions. Yeah.
Okay, great. And so we've got your details up on the screen again, just as a reminder, if anyone would like to visit your website or social feeds after the webinar. You mentioned that you sell your images. Just one final quick question from Kim. She's asking where you sell your images. Are they available on your website?
Yeah. Okay. Yes, my images. Yes, my images are available on my website. But currently, I'm building a new shop for my prints. That will be very nice. You will be able to buy limited edition prints, but also wall art prints printed directly on the bond or PVC or canvas, and also limited edition prints and many other things that I'm planning to do. So yes, I am selling my images, and if someone wants a license for an image, you can write an email to me, and we will manage somehow to.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, that's great. So Isabella, thank you very much for your time
You're
and
welcome.
sharing.
It was a pleasure.
Yes, thank you very much for sharing your, some of your experience and your tips and tricks and the stories behind your images.
Thank you. Thank you. It was a pleasure.
And hopefully you'll be able to travel again soon and capture more images. So
Absolutely.
so just to finish up quickly, as always, if you're able to help fill in the webinar survey that should pop up on your screen after exiting today's webinar, that would be much appreciated. It helps us to know how we're doing and what you would like to see more of. Another quick reminder that past webinars are on our YouTube channel, as well as the recording from today's webinar should be up there within a few hours or the latest tomorrow morning. And of course, any more information on Hasselblad, then please visit our website at hasselblad.com. We've got everything on there from future events, of course, all details on our products, details on our partner network around the world, lots of inspirational stories, lots about our history. And then, of course, you can request for more information and get any support as well. So thank you once again. Thanks for joining us. Thanks to Isabella. And we'll look forward to seeing you again, hopefully, on our next webinar. Thank you very much.
Bye.